and welcome fellow Wasteland survivors. I'm Dean, and thanks for stopping in for today's video because it is the long-awaited electrical tips and tricks video on our settlement build where we built the U.S.S. Enterprise. And it looks like we have another visitor down in the right-hand corner too. This is one of the skeletons in my closet. Now, how did you get out? Okay, well, this is George, everybody. George, everybody. Now, he says his name is George, but yeah, I saw how he spelt it, and it says George. Trust me. I read it twice. Alright, let's get started. Now, today's video is just one part of two parts that are going to come out. Since I've got quite a bit to show on what we've done here, instead of one really long video, I'm just going to make a couple of 20-minuters. So that's how we're going to break this up. Today we're going to do the bridge and see how it was wired. Now, C is an important thing because today's video is a little different. It's more of a show and tell. We're just going to see how it was done. We're not going to really be explaining how it was done. So, if you're interested in how a lot of these objects that we're going to use today were used, my Electrical Tips and Tricks series explains everything that we're going to do today in full detail. You may want to watch those first before you continue watching this video. Okay, let's get her going and started. Okay, the first electrical objects in are these light boxes. They're 15 light boxes wide by 9 light boxes tall. Now, do keep this in mind as we're going. This build does change several times. We're going to see what happened the very first time that I connected this all up. The reason is because it'll be much easier to see how and why we connected everything. Later on, when it changed, it was much more difficult to understand what was going on. And of course, we're going to see all of that. Now, we're going to work with two different types of animations. The first animation is going to be a continuous animation, and it'll require 5 interval switches, or 5 switches, to create the effect that we're going to do with it. Basically, it's going to be it's going to be like the very simple animation that you can make where one light blinks, the other light blinks. We're just adding a third light in so they overlap each other. Okay, the second animation is going to be a recycling animation. It's going to have 6 delayed off poles, which we're programming first, and we'll do that at 1/2 of a second. So after it receives power, 1/2 of a second, it will shut power off or quit transmitting power. Now that those are programmed, we're going to stick them in the nose or behind the view screen of the ship. What my intentions was to hide all of these poles behind the screen here. It didn't work. It kind of worked out, but didn't work out because I actually needed more power than I could generate, and we'll explain about that a little later. Now, I've moved the first delayed off switch in, connected one interval switch to it, and then connected the delayed off switch to one of the lights on our boxed lighting. It's the very first box in the corner. You can see it connected right there, and that's going to be the very first light box that lights up when the animation starts. The second second delayed off switch we bring in will be connected to one light box, but that light box will be connected to 3 other light boxes, making a square. Now, the light was in the way. I just moved it out and replaced it. Okay, our third delayed off switch will be connected to another light box beside the one we just did, and it'll be connected to 4 light boxes as well. Alright, now our fourth switch that we're going to put in will be connected to a series of light boxes that create a square. The last light boxes that we've been making, the square has been 2 light boxes by 2 light boxes. This one will be 3 by 3. Now there is a little bit to know about this hookup. Even though all of these light boxes will be affected by our delayed off switch pole number 4, 2 of the light boxes will be a different color, and now those will be the ones in the bottom corner, so the right and left hand side of this square. So because of that, I'm just actually going to hook an individual wire up to it. Now in the light box in the lower corner below that will get hooked to pole 3, the one below that on an angle, pole 2, the one below that to the very first pole. And I'll repeat that process on the other side. The very first light boxes on the bottom get connected to the very first pole, and so on across. What it'll do is give us a second animation running off of this animation. Now, real quick, a great tip is the more wires that you put in, the harder it is to target objects. I recommend try to, if you can, put your furthest away wires in first, then end with your closest wires. It does help out quite a bit if you do that. I consider it build order. Okay, now our 5th delayed off switch will just be randomly connected to 4 light boxes around the square that's 3 light boxes by 3 light boxes. Number 6 will only be connected to 2 squares or 2 light boxes away from the light boxes that the 5th pole powered. And we'll see how that works when we see how the animation works. Now I've brought in 5 delayed on switches, and we're connecting them to each one of the delayed off switches as well as the previous delayed on switch. So all these delayed on switches are connected in one long chain, but each one is individually connected to a delayed off switch. Okay, let's throw some power to this guy and see if it's working. Now, even though it looks really good, I haven't colored the light boxes yet, by the way. Of course, we can see that. It's not working correctly. We've got 6 poles. It should be having a 6 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no 6. So, I'm going to have to go out and change our interval switch's timing and give it 1 more second. We all know, because U.S.S glitches settlement, you always got to add in more time. Now let's take a look at it with some color and the correct timing. What my idea for the animation here was that the ship would be firing at a Borg ship, which is represented by the square. Then it's exploding. And yeah, for what we've got and the tools we have and the limited amount of space, I think we did a pretty good job, getting that effect. Now let's take a quick look at the bridge when it was completed before we went down to engineering. Now this did get completely changed over every bit of it, but we can see how the wiring and how the lighting looks, how our programming is looked. That's our 5-pole program, those reactor lights. I did give a border around the screen because I thought that might help it because of the light boxes penetrating into the ceiling, and no, it didn't. It helped, but still bad. So I just wanted to show this real quick before we see what actually went in. Okay, now that we've got our newly made console in, let's hook it up. Now, how this actually worked was pretty cool. I'd already put some wiring in anticipation of this build coming in, and I needed to hook the lines up that were already in the build to what we just brought in. What I did was clicked on the wall, come in here, hit B, let the wall go back, and now I'm in between the pictures and the outside wall. And it was pretty easy to connect all these up. Now it is tight in here, hard to move around. I did have to use the wire glitch a couple of times to get it all connected up. Plus, we do have a fourth line coming in that I forgot to put in that is a pure power. The other three lines will be affected by our switches, so we need a pure power line in that doesn't blink or, do whatever the switches are doing. All right, downstairs in the bottom part of the saucer section, I've built some rooms. We haven't seen them yet. That will be for the walkthrough. But I've commandeered one of the rooms to put our electrical in. It's basically exactly the same thing that we had upstairs. The only difference is each line is connected to an electrical conduit, which there's another electrical conduit upstairs that matches it, and then they just go up there. Now also I left this clip at its normal speed so that we could notice the frame rate. When this clip was made, everything is done. And you can see I'm really suffering bad on frame rates. So we can only run one animation at a time, or we get 2 or 3 second delays. It gets bad. Okay, back up on top where our poles were at, we're just going to connect our lights up exactly the same way that we did earlier. Now there is a little bit of a difference. Because our new build has some lockers covering half the lights, we're going to use those light boxes in with this 6-pole animation. But it will not start until the third pole is activated. So I didn't want it to blend up with the others, and it already does pretty good already. But I didn't want it coming on when the animation came on. So I thought, making it come on a few moves into the animation would look better. So the first 6 electrical conduits equal the first 6 delayed off switches. And this is completely wired. Everything is hooked up. And you can see just how many wires there are. The next 3 conduits are for our 5-pole continuous animation. 3 lines go to the right, 3 lines go to the left. Now I don't know, it only looks like 2, but one of the conduits is sitting on a wall that I've already pulled out. So it's running over there, it's just off on the side. Now these 2 conduits are actually connected directly to the power source and the computer. By doing this, you only have to run one line to your computer to run everything else. The last conduit is our pure power, so when everything comes on, that has constant power. Runs to the recycling lights in the front, as well as the recycling lights back on our computer console. Used a letter from the sign category or sign section, connected the recycling lights to them, and then hooked them up. Those will always be on. They also connect up to a couple of our big light boxes at the top. The 2 that are not connected up in this do run over here to the first conduit, which one of our recycling poles is connected to, which now will make those 2 boxes blink off and on, and maybe make it look like it's shorting out a little bit or something. Hello, Pastor. Now the other side is exactly the same thing. The 3 lines coming in, one of them's over there as soon as I put the wall back. Well, when I go back to the save, there's no way I could put the wall back in at this point. But our pure power comes over here, goes up to these upper light boxes, and the one that's not connected goes to the small light box, which is connected to the second conduit at the end. I figure they won't blink at the same time. Then all the little light boxes are just intertwined differently so that they'll blink at different times. Okay, let's take a look at our hard work. Now, the animation for the light boxes is the right hand computer. When I access this and turn it on, only that animation will come on. Now, the way that I did this was because all of these interval switches, everything that's making this work that we're seeing right now is connected to its own power source and that computer. By doing it this way, it isolates the rest of the systems, and when I activate the switch with the computer, it won't turn on other switches that are in the build. Now I will be able to actually turn on each animation individually by each computer that's in front of us right there. We can really see how, we have put three different animations into one animation using the same interval switches. We have the blue lights on the sides. They start at the top. And if you remember right, we connected them up on the third pole. So on the third move of our animation is when they actually start. And now that I'm looking at it, it looks like the second. Also, we have the missiles being fired from the ship that are red going to the Borg ship. Plus, we have the Borg ship and the cool little explosion at the end. Now, because, we are sized glitched pretty big, the animation doesn't work perfectly every time, even if you just stand there and look at it. But that's the price you pay when you size glitch. Alright, now let's take a look at the second animation. And of course, once again, we turn it on by accessing the left computer. All of the delayed on and off switches for this animation is on its own power source too. These systems are individual from the rest of the entire ship. I was able to create some fields, but because of the size glitch issue and the electric being the last part of it going in, I did really suffer a lot of problems. Uh, my idea was grand. I actually don't have in half or but about half of the lighting that I had intended to come in here. And most of it being neon like what we're looking at right now. And I'm pretty sure most of you by now are aware of the amount of build space that neon takes up when you place it out in your settlement. But I did get some of it in, so I'm fairly happy with that. Like I said, I did get a couple of fields generated and got them locked. That was pretty good there. I was happy about that. What I wanted to do with the neon was put some of the like dashes in on the sides of the computers. Then when the light boxes that we're looking at, the little ones, were flashing, they would be on those fields and they would flash randomly just like the light boxes are. And I thought it might give it a really sweet, like computer calculating look. The different colors, the different fields. There is so much that could have been done with this in the electrical. But I had to settle with this. And please don't think for a second that I'm complaining at all. The lighting is amazing and it does look good. But I was really hoping to show exactly what you could get from the electrical of Fallout. I feel that the crew or the group of people that worked on the electrical part of Fallout deserves, I don't know, whatever Emmys for their contribution to electrical. It's very poorly misunderstood what you can really do with it. And the genius that's behind it is almost hard to explain. So, by, doing these little videos like this, hopefully I can do some justice and show off all the hard work that they put into it. Now, I'm not trying to pun Beth Esma or anything like that, but for me, the electrical is the funnest part of building, well, and the most frustrating. Okay, I better throw that in there too. Yes, the most funnest and the most frustrating part of the game for me. Alright everybody, that's the end of the video. Thanks for coming, hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it very much. I hope you join me for the second part of this build, or the electrical of this build. We will be going downstairs to where engineering is at. I did save it for the last because it is a little more technical. We're going to be working with logic gates, so for the first time ever on my channel, we've got some logic gates. We're going to do some more of those later on, but I've been fooling around with them because of planning on making a video, so we'll have some of them in the next video as well. Alright everybody, once again, thank you. I can't say it enough. And just like always, until next time, please stay safe and peace.